Welcome to the Government Operations Committee of the House. Clerk, would you mind taking the roll? Oh, I'm sorry. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much for that. Members, today's February 24th, 2025. Item number 2, just a little housekeeping. Item number 2 has been taken off notice, which leaves us with just one bill on the calendar today. Before we get going, are there any personal orders? Seeing none. All right, we are ready to hear item number 1, House Bill 122.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Representative Scarborough, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. This proposed legislation rewrites Tennessee Code Annotated 43218 to allow the state to collect fees to be used to operate, maintain, and improve the TACN system. Tennessee law currently only allows assessment to be used for TACN for the use of maintenance. Allowing these assessments will allow us to also use the funds for improvements. Again, it'll provide a decreased amount of funding requested during the budget coming sessions and cover implementation of the TACN system moving forward. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Representative Chairman Crawford, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the sponsor had requested earlier that this bill be rolled to the Hill, but since he's the only bill we got, I don't guess we can do that. But I think this is his first bill before this committee. I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We understand the want to kind of sit back a little bit. Representative Faison, you're recognized. Chairman Faison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this indeed your first bill?
It is, sir.
Can you, Mr. Sponsor, can you, by the way, you're supposed to wait on him to acknowledge you. Who brought you this bill?
You're recognized.
Chairman Faison, as soon as I answered you, I realized I forgot to get that too.
That's not what I just asked you, but. Yeah,
Leader Lambert did.
Chairman Faison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You used the word tacking in there, and I'm a sailor, and tacking is a sailing word. And I was wondering, are you aware of this tacking word, and is it akin to the word that I use when I'm sailing and this tacking that you're talking about?
Representative Scarborough, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Faison, I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Representative Faison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you have any idea of what the tacking in your language is talking about?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay.
You're recognized.
Thanks, sir. Chairman, this is the Tennessee Advanced Communication Network, sir.
Nice.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you tell me what all that said is going to do?
But right now,
You're
currently,
recognized.
right now, currently, they can only use for the use and maintain when using those funds. Now, with these new, being able to assess for improvements, hopefully this will help maintain the towers across the state.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You also, at the beginning, you said Tennessee Code Annotated. I was wondering, do you know what annotated means?
Is this germane to the bill?
Mr. Chair, he actually said that in his presentation, so I would believe it would be germane. And I'm just wondering if the sponsor is aware of what annotated means.
Representative Scarborough, you're recognized.
By definition, no, sir, I do not. By use, I'm thinking about as far as filing purposes.
Okay. Chairman Faison.
Before we get to the House floor, it might be a good idea to remember and find out what annotated means. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Sponsor, good job.
All right. We're beyond that one. Representative Fritz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to ask what my colleague from Cotton County had asked, and a little explanation about what TACN is, what it does, what it can do for the state.
You're recognized.
The radio towers across the state ties everybody in for interoperability, be able to allow each agency to talk to each other throughout the state of Tennessee. I didn't benefit from that in my early years in law enforcement. It was only coming about in my latter years. And it was slow to move across the state, but really great benefit for everybody right now.
Thank you for that explanation. Chairman Crawford?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you tell me, you said something about the agencies that will be on these towers. What agencies are you talking about?
You're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, currently there's state agencies on there, but all local agencies are also able to put repeaters on those towers as well.
You're recognized.
How many local agencies will participate with this?
Please.
Currently, I can't tell you that, sir, at this time. I would imagine that they're all available, but there's hundreds of towers across the state that will be available for everybody.
Chairman?
I was just going to ask, but he doesn't know the answer to. I was going to get him to tell me, what agencies locally were going to participate. But since he don't know the answer to that question, I guess I will ask one more. Does this have anything to do with the University of Tennessee in any way?
You're recognized.
They would be eligible to also put towers on there as well, put repeaters on the towers as well.
Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Representative Hardaway, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, sir.
You're recognized.
Good afternoon.
I thought I was going to get you. You've seen this before. The towers themselves, are they taking feed from satellites or from each other?
Please.
Mr. Hardaway, I can't speak to technology itself, sir.
Representative Hardaway?
All right.
And we
what
do
about-
have safety on hand if there's something we need to go out of session for.
Actually, a confession, Mr. Chairman, I've already talked to safety and I knew they're getting the information to me.
Okay,
Just couldn't resist with the freshmen here.
understand.
So in terms of coverage, you cited that there were holes in the coverage when you served. So are we now 100% covered?
You're recognized.
Mr. Hardaway, I'm not quite certain of that. Topography limited communication back when actually I was serving and prior to this technology. And again, it was coming into play as I was leaving the profession, but I'll be happy to get that answer for you.
You're
Another
recognized.
confession, Mr. Chairman, I had already talked to safety. So if you want to know the answer, get with me later. Congratulations on your bill, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Vice Chair Reedy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And of course, for those that are viewing from home remotely, or even, they've got a great website. And of course, reading from that website, the radio system that provides communications connectivity infrastructure for local, state, and federal first responders, including law enforcement, fire, EMS, and healthcare providers, have reliable communications capabilities for daily operations, ability to talk to each other, to coordinate at the local, regional, and statewide level to respond to the event of emergency or disaster. Because disaster knows no boundaries, with the network, local, state, and federal public safety agencies can respond as many, but communicates as one. The interoperable communications is key to providing a swift and organized response that will save time, money, and citizens' lives. And here is my question to you, sir. When Helena struck, do we have any idea how much communications was taken offline? And of course, my background, I'm a ham radio operator, and many times we use ham radio operators to fill the gap for communications. But can you tell us anything from Helena, what happened in East Tennessee, and if it took any towers or any communications down, and are we back up? Thank you, sir.
You're recognized.
Sir, I can't speak to that initially. I will tell you this, I appreciate your being a ham radio operator. In the past, we've tapped into those resources ourselves. Again, I don't think people at home may be able to appreciate the challenge we have when it comes to topography across the state of Tennessee and those gaps in communication that we've been able to use ham radio operators on in the past. But back to your initial question, though, I can't speak to what was always lost there. I know a lot of communication networks went up there. I think it was Chairman Faison actually worked on making sure that we had some different radio folks up there from different cell phone services.
Thank you.
Chairman Faison, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And great question, Chairman Reedy. I will say this, in the middle of the storm, all landlines were gone and cell phone towers were destroyed. Immediately, TEMA got hotspots put in throughout East Tennessee, and for about a day, even our EMS radios were struggling. Things happened during the storm that hurt them, but within 24 hours, we had communications back up. Now, landlines and cell phone towers, it took weeks before that came back up. Where I live in Cosby, we didn't have cell phone reception for probably a month because it damaged the cell towers that bad.
Members, any other questions? I'm curious about the, and this may be for safety, I'm curious about the payments. All of these payments made to help support this system come from our locals. Typically, technology gets more cost efficient as time goes on. That doesn't always seem to correlate when government gets involved. But do you know, is there any cap or is there any future opportunity that these prices charged could come down a little bit as we get the bugs worked out on the front end and then proceed into cruise control? You're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'd probably want to defer the answer, that question to safety on that.
Okay. No objections. We'll go out of session for just a second. We're out of session. And as usual, please present your name and who you're with.
Elizabeth Stroker, Legislative Director for the Department of Safety. And thank you, Chairman, for asking that. We've had a few people ask. So these fees cannot and will not be assessed to locals. The locals who join onto the TACN network are not assessed any fees. They get to join as long as they want to be a part of it. It's a voluntary program. The fees we're talking about would be private entities who want to actually lease space on the tower. So think AT&T, T-Mobile, a utility company, something of that nature, a private entity who would rather lease our space as opposed to having to build their own tower, which is very costly. But this does not assess fees, will not assess fees on local entities. They will continue to receive those services without that charge.
Thank you for that. So did I hear you right? We are building towers instead of getting on other people's towers that might already be out there. You
Yes,
recognized?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Members, any other questions? Representative Hardaway?
Thank you, Chairman. It's good to have you here, ma'am, so we can get some answers. To the public, I'm just having fun with the freshmen. When we're looking at interstate compacts, is there a compact that applies to the communications network?
You recognized.
So the network is exclusively used for the state of Tennessee. And so there wouldn't be an interstate compact that would be applicable. I'm not aware of anything.
Representative Hardaway?
Thank you, Chairman. And any of the third-party or private entities who would want access to this, they would have to this network, would have to be domiciled in Tennessee, or if they show up during an emergency, they've got access.
You recognized.
So I think it might be clear to distinguish kind of what we're talking about. We're talking about entities that want to lease space on our already existing towers. That would be more of a long-term lease situation. It wouldn't be in effect for an emergency type situation. So it would be, a T-Mobile, Verizon, whomever who wants to use our tower space that we've already built and pay the lease on that space to be able to use it for communications access. It wouldn't necessarily, this wouldn't have anything to do with any emergency type situations and people joining the tower.
So there wouldn't be any short-term spur of the moment that were initiated by the emergency itself. Those type of relationships wouldn't exist for a third party.
You recognized.
That wasn't already on long-term.
Obviously, if there is an emergency situation, we can work with any entities, whether that be local or private, to make sure that we don't have a communications gap. But this specific statute that we're talking about doesn't correlate to an emergency situation. This is specifically for those entities that want to lease space in the long term.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So out of curiosity, how many towers has the Department of Safety built across the state?
I believe it is 144. I'm looking for a head nod behind me. Yes, and
Okay.
we are working on, I think, 200 more? Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
260 more.
It's a big number. Thank you for that. Members, any other questions for the department? All right, seeing none, we're going to go back in session, and I just heard those lovely words, previous question. All those in favor of passing this out to finance indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, it moves out to finance. Oh, I'm sorry. We've got to put that on the board. Old habits are dying hard around here. All right. All right. Clerk, could you open the board for us, please? Thank you. All right, has every member voted? Any member wish to change their vote? Clerk, take the vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 13 ayes.
All right, thank you very much. And that passes out to finance. There we go. And we took item number 2 off notice. And having said that, we have no other business before us. We have motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.